Živjo! Dobrodošli v epizodi 5. Sem Polona in poslušate moj podcast Se vidimo. Last time we talked about how verbs, glagoli, work in the present tense, sedanjik. Today we are going to learn how to describe your day in Slovene. But before we jump into that, I'll teach you a few useful words and expressions you can use. Let's start with the days of the week. Have you ever wondered what they are called in Slovene? Here they are. Ponedeljek, Monday. Torek, Tuesday. Sreda, Wednesday. Četrtek, Thursday. Petek, Friday. Sobota, Saturday. Nedelja, Sunday. Now, here's a fun and logical way to remember them. Let's start with nedelja, Sunday. The word nedelja actually hides a verb inside it, ne delati, which means not to work. Traditionally, Sunday is the day of rest, so that one is easy to remember. Then we have ponedeljek. You can hear a part of nedelja in it. Ponedeljek literally means after Sunday. Torek comes from the Old Slavic word for the second, meaning the second day in the week. Sreda is connected to sredina, which means the middle, so it's the day in the middle of the week. Četrtek comes from četrti, which means fourth. Petek has pet, 5, right inside it, so it's the fifth day. And sobota comes from Hebrew, meaning the day of rest. So, if we repeat them again, ponedeljek, torek, sreda, četrtek, petek, sobota, nedelja. Now that we know the days, let's move on to months. They are very similar to the English ones. Januar, februar, marec, april, maj, juni, juli, august, september, oktober, november, December. Alright, next let's learn some adverbs of frequency, words you can use when describing your daily routine. Vsak dan, every day. Pogosto, often. Ponavadi, usually. Včasih, sometimes. Redko, rarely. Nikoli, never. Let's use them in some simple sentences. Vsak dan vstanem. I wake up every day. Pogosto kolesarim. I often ride a bicycle. Ponavadi berem. I usually read. Včasih kuham. Sometimes I cook. Redko plavam. I rarely swim. Nikoli ne pijem. I never drink. Notice that with nikoli you always have to negate the verb. Nikoli ne. Now what if we want to add nouns to these sentences? Here's where we meet our first Slovene case, or sklon. A case in Slovene is a grammatical form that changes the ending of a noun depending on its role in the sentence. In many cases, accusative in a sentence corresponds to English object and nominative to the subject. There are 6 cases in total, but today we'll focus on just one, the accusative case, accusative. It's used with most everyday verbs. I'll share a list of them on my Instagram. Let's rewind for a moment. Remember when we talked about gender in Slovene? If a word ends in a consonant, it's masculine. If it ends in A, it's feminine. And if it ends in E or O, it's neuter. That's nominative case, or nominative, the base form you find in the dictionary. If you're not sure about a word's gender, you can always check on fran.si. There, next to each word, you'll see M for moški spol, masculine, Ž for ženski spol, feminine, and S for srednji spol, neuter. Now let's look at how the accusative case works, but only in singular ednina for now. This case helps you answer the question Kaj delaš? What are you doing? If we take a masculine noun like nogomet, football, we say Igram nogomet, I play football. The noun doesn't change, it stays the same. But if the noun is alive, meaning a person or an animal, it does change. For example, imam brata, I have a brother. The dictionary form is brat, but in the accusative we add a, brata. If we take a feminine noun like kava, coffee, we say pijem kavo, I drink coffee. So the final a changes to o. And for neuter nouns like stanovanje, an apartment, we say imam stanovanje, I have an apartment. No change here, it stays the same. So the rule is simple. Masculine alive, we add an a. Feminine, change a to o. And neuter stays the same. And what if we want to say where you are going? Kam greš? Here we use 2 prepositions, v or na. There's no strict rule, so you mostly have to memorize which one goes with which place. But in most cases we use v. For example, grem v Maribor, grem v Ljubljano, grem v Celje. And if you listened carefully, you might have noticed that the V sounds more like U, just like I mentioned in episode 2. Let's go back to the days of the week we learned earlier today. If you want to use them in a sentence, you also need a preposition v. As most of them are masculine, they will stay the same in accusative. V ponedeljek, on Monday. V torek, on Tuesday. V četrtek, on Thursday. V petek, on Friday. Sreda, sobota, and nedelja are feminine, so they will need the ending o in accusative. V sredo, on Wednesday. V soboto, on Saturday. V nedeljo, on Sunday. Let me give you a couple of examples. V soboto grem na morje. I'm going to the coast on Saturday. V ponedeljek grem domov. I go home on Monday. V četrtek ima rojstni dan. He or she has birthday on Thursday. And that's all for today. Now you know how to talk about your day, from the days of the week to describing what you do and where you go. Try making a few sentences about your day in Slovene. And if you'd like some help, check my Instagram for examples and extra practice. Hvala lepa for listening, and as always, se vidimo!